Welcome to the Visionary Spotlight. This is a monthly series highlighting business owners, leaders, and entrepreneurs who are visionaries in their fields. They're leading their industries with a track record of excellence. In these conversations, we learn a few of the key steps on each visionary's road to success, how they grew the business, reached their best customers, and what they've learned along the way. I'm Emily Hammel-Shaver of Lumos Communications, and today I am thrilled to be speaking with Ashley Russo, president of ASR Media Productions, and four-time Emmy Award-winning executive producer and host of The Peak TV and St. Luke's Health Now. Ashley and ASR work with small businesses, the Fortune 500, as well as local and worldwide nonprofits to tell positive and impactful stories through media, video, and television production. Additionally, Ashley hosts the weekly podcast Unscripted with Russo, serves on several boards and committees in her community, including the United Way of the Greater Lehigh Valley, and Ashley is now also the Chief Operating Officer of General Magna Plate Corporation. She is the third generation to lead the company founded by her grandparents in 1952, which is the world's leading manufacturer of engineered coating solutions. Ashley, you are the ultimate inspiring multi-hyphenate entrepreneur. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me, and welcome to the Visionary Spotlight.
Thank you, Emily. It's so great to be here, and I really appreciate you asking me to be a part of this, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to learning from you. And I am out of breath from your intro, so I will leave it to the on-camera pro. Please tell us more about your work and ASR Media Productions. What are you really known for?
Sure. Well, I started as a broadcast journalism major at NYU back in the mid-90s and worked on a bunch of internships in television news. And I really fell in love with the writing and producing side. I loved the idea that you were sort of the project manager, the architect, so to speak, of the journalism side of the business. And that means everything from writing scripts to gathering the information you would include in a story, especially on TV. Of course, you look for visuals, the people you would interview, the props you would need if it was something like a cooking or a fitness segment, not just hard news. And I loved all of those things. And so I was very drawn to that side of the industry and worked in New York for a few years and left and started as a solopreneur in my 20s, doing all kinds of media wherever the jobs would take me and working with companies like ASR. So I had a little bit of a modeling going on when I would come in as the independent producer with the client. I would work with a company that I've now developed. I took a break to have kids, and I started ASR Media really because of the Peak TV. We are a television show. It's a news magazine. We are good news you can use. It's all positivity all around our region of the Lehigh Valley in Eastern Pennsylvania. And when we started, our hospital network was interested in sharing stories of health, wellness, and success. But they didn't want them to just be standalone. They wanted them to be a part of a bigger conversation. And it was kind of like someone, if I was an artist, handed me a gigantic canvas or the wall of a building and some paint and said, we'll be back in a few months, show us what you can do. And I had a few months to really take pen to paper and sketch out what would a news magazine show featuring our region look like. So we came up with some pillars of health and wellness and featuring healthy eating and food and what other things go into that. And then also putting the other kind of pillar being nonprofits and how do you give back to your community. I grew up giving back, and it's always been a part of my family and I guess the fabric of my life. And so I really wanted to feature that as well. And so from there, people said, are there enough stories in the Lehigh Valley? I'm happy to tell you we are almost 200 episodes in, 9 years later. And there are more stories than I feel like we could ever tell, which is really cool. I think it's a great testament to this area. But ASR Media was born from that. We started to create a TV show, and very quickly, people we were featuring were saying, do you do commercials? Do you do videos for our website? And you think about the timing, right? We're going back almost a decade, and that was just perfect timing where web SEO was really taking off. We were seeing the beginnings of the power of social media for business purposes, and it was the dots were starting to connect. So I tapped a friend of mine who was a marketing expert who worked with me as a volunteer at our kids' grammar school. She's wildly talented, Tina Hasselbush from Social Tea Marketing and PR. And I know you know her, Emily. And I just said, I'm working on this thing, and I need you to do it with me to make it successful. I mean, really, this was a conversation in a parking lot. she took a leap of faith. And then we contacted DeSales University, and the professor of film over there recommended a young woman who had just graduated, and her name at the time was Katie Wallace. You now might know her as our VP of production, Katie Wallace Santana, and said she's really, really talented. She just graduated. She's green, but she's really talented. So we partnered up and sort of just started making a show and taking work as it came, and developed this business. So now we are pretty comprehensive. We do all kinds of content creation. Yes, a lot of it is video, but we do a lot of, I think the way things have expanded in marketing, we try to work with clients on what their goals are as a business or a nonprofit, and then figure out how we can support their branding and their image and their culture to create content that supports that. And that's becoming almost a broader term than just saying, we'll make you a video, which maybe 10 years ago is what you would have said. So it's kind of us in a nutshell.
Oh my gosh. So when you had said earlier in your response about sort of being the architect, and I see that being what you do for businesses now. It's not just making a video, it's really architecting their brand and how they're sharing their mission and their story and connecting with their customers or their advocates in the community. And so I can see how that initial passion of yours really serves your clients now.
It's interesting. I didn't realize it at the time, right? You're 19 or 20 years old. I'm the oldest of a pretty big mixed blended family. And so I think that I had developed skills as a kid to be a very strategic thinker that tends to look through the 30,000 foot lens. I'm not a great detail person. I'm so grateful to be surrounded by some wonderful detailed people who really help me out. But I am good at seeing the bigger picture and the strategy and sort of the chess moves of how things might play together. And I do think that's why I was drawn to that. I didn't have that perspective at all until probably the last few years of why I was drawn to certain things in this business. But now that I recognize that as one of my strengths, I'm able to play to that a lot more in the way I operate day to day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very visionary that you were producing the peak TV and at the same time thinking, why don't I just start a business too? Like a detail person like me would have been
really
like
practical at the time. I was like, I don't know. I'm sort of one of those people where I just say, like, if you dream it, you can do it, I guess. Like, just whatever, we'll do it. And then of course the people who are my support network are behind me going, oh my gosh. Like my team does not love me to go on vacation. I do work usually when I'm on vacation, but mostly because it means I'm just thinking, and being left alone with my own thoughts means I come back with a notebook of ideas. So yeah, I know.
But that's amazing. That's where growth lives, right? Is in the vision and then moving toward it.
Right.
So
I always figure you can figure it out. If you can see it, you can figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And surround yourself with a team who covers your blind spots, plays to your strengths, so you can all do it together. Yeah.
That's the real key. That's the ultimate key.
Great. Well, I'm going to ask you more about your team in a little bit, but so thinking about all of those things that you do and are known for, I'm just so curious about how you think about your personal brand. I know it can be challenging for multi-hyphenates to put all that they do into context for others, thinking about how others will see them and remember them, especially when you're a business owner, as well as just putting it into context for yourself and your vision for where you're growing. Just curious, do you have a framework for how you think about Ashley Russo, the personal brand?
I do, but I will tell you it's evolved quite a bit, especially in the last couple of years. You mentioned working at General Magnaplate and taking over a family business, and that really forced some necessary changes around a few areas of my life. So first of all, I needed more support. I needed to help kind of coach up and hand off more on the ASR side, hire more and build up that team. And then I needed to take a closer look at myself and my brand and what would get me excited about the work that I do in that business, the same way that what I get excited about ASR. And so I would say there are a couple of things. I'm really a people person, always have been. I was that little chatty kid. And I love growing teams. I love working with people, both individually and then collectively. That gets me so excited to see individual growth, to see those light bulb moments, to have the reward of taking the risk of handing something off or training someone and then watching them do it, much like parenting. It's, it's very rewarding. And I think that that's one of the main things for me is team building, and just kind of even not even say mentoring, because I like to be a part of the team, but also the mentoring. And then I really am kind of a serial entrepreneur. I had a conversation with someone from a nonprofit that's in development yesterday. It's not a client. It was someone in the community that we were sort of collaborating and discussing collaboration. And what got me excited in the conversation was when I could start to put that strategic thinking into place. And this person was very excited because she too thinks that way. And you could tell we just right away thought, now we're going to see that architecture come into play. And I was immediately, my whole day kind of went and got energized from that interaction. So I sort of think of myself as a serial entrepreneur who really at my heart loves people and loves to see positive growth in their lives. Whether that's with my team or somewhere else, I've had several team members successfully move on to other places and other careers. And I've been instrumental in encouraging that and then supporting that process. And that feels really exciting too. And I'm in touch with most of them still. So it's nice to see their career trajectory and the growth. I always say, if you come work for us at ASR Media, I don't expect it to be your last job. I expect it to be a stepping stone, and let me teach you as much as I can, learn from each other as much as we can, and then tell me where you want to go so we can help you get there. And that's exciting and fulfilling as well. So, and the other thing I would add is, I guess the thing I struggled with a lot when I started the business was the concept of my mom hat versus my professional hat. And something I've seen really change that I love, and I worked hard to embrace it, and I hope I've been a part of the change at this point, is taking ownership over your parent hat, your mom hat, your family hat, and letting that be okay and spoken in the business world. So saying, oh, I'm not available at that time because actually my daughter has a dance recital, or I'm not available at that time because I'm taking my son to a doctor's appointment. And I'm seeing, especially women, I've noticed in the last 5 years, there's so much more of that going on. And then I think one of the positives of COVID is we were all working from home and everyone was suddenly in the same boat, but we all had to own that dogs bark and babies cry and kids need help with homework. So I love that, because I think it's finally the first time I've seen that melding. It's really like, we're truly can be both of those things and feel good about it as a female in business. So
I love that. And it's not just, you said, own it, but also speak it. So you're not just saying, oh, I can't at that time, I have a commitment, like setting a boundary, which is also important to do as a parent, I can assume, and as a business owner, but you're also saying it, which is making
it empowers other people.
Yeah.
When you own it and say it specifically, I feel like you've created an opportunity for someone else to feel that that's safe to do with you. And that's a big thing I've always done in the ASR space, because we're a small, tight, family-like team, but I hadn't always done in other spaces, my board commitments, my community commitments, the general magna plate hat where it's a much bigger company. So it's nice to see some of that happening.
Yeah. Thank you for role modeling and leading that progress. It's very needed.
Thank you.
So back to ASR, you founded the company a little under a decade ago. In that time, what is one of the most meaningful actions that you took to grow the business?
I would say being early adopters of social media and hiring professionals to do it for us. I think that I'm a huge proponent of supporting other small business owners. I love collaboration, even when there's some crossover in skill sets. Again, I prefer to be the ideas person around it, not necessarily always the executor. Now on the journalism side, because that's my background, I love to actually do the interviews, although I have an amazing team now that does lots of that as well. Writing questions and writing scripts and I like that. But the other stuff I thought, this is not my area, and I don't know that I'll have the bandwidth. Thank goodness I didn't think I would, because there's no way with where it's gone today that I would have ever had the bandwidth now. But I think really investing in social media, and it's purposeful. And I think that people don't quite realize, especially in the marketing world, and especially having this conversation with you and your audience, marketing and branding, whether that's social media, traditional blogging, adding video components, this is a very scientific field now. Yes, there's a lot of art to it. Of course, that's sort of its origination. There's that feel, but now we have ROI, we have actual data telling us what's working, which I think is exciting in the field, but it also says to clients, and I'm a big cheerleader for saying, you have to spend money on this. And you don't always need an in-house person, because sometimes or if you have an in-house person, you still need additional support. I mean, we work as a video company with in-house videographers all the time, but if they're one person, how much could they possibly cover or be an expert in? Mm-hmm. So we can create a multiplier effect. And the same thing has happened for me with social media. There's so much to manage and keep up with, and it's very purposeful. There is a tremendous amount of planning around the content, the keywords, who you're tagging, what it looks like. And now, of course, you've got to have your regular Instagram, your Instagram story, your Facebook story, your LinkedIn page, it's Twitter. And then I've got different brands going on. So I would say that's the thing I invested the most in early on that's paid dividends for our business.
Mm-hmm. And you said, hire a professional too.
Somebody,
right. The quality, the knowledge of the algorithms, it's not just delegation. And
it really helps our job. I will say this, we had the opportunity a few years ago for ASR to expand and include more marketing services. I made a pretty purposeful decision not to do that. Twofold, to support other businesses, but also because I felt that we could support the brand better being really hyper-focused and good at what we do. But I will tell you, as video producers and content creators, we are much more successful when there is a plan and a machine behind the plan, because I can create beautiful, amazing, moving content. But if nobody sees it, I'll say to the client, unless you can tell me you have a plan, I'm not even comfortable giving you a proposal, to be honest, because I don't want you to spend that kind of money. What we do is not inexpensive. It's an investment in your business, and there needs to be a place it's going to go. So that's always where my new client conversations start, actually, is what is your communication marketing plan around this content? And hopefully then we can help drive a conversation if it's needed, or bring different people to the table to help drive that conversation.
That makes so much sense. And it's honestly also quite ethical and it's you're putting on your strategic hat again, and it's really thinking out what's going to make sense and how will this actually be implemented in a way that will have an ROI.
I appreciate you saying the word ethical. I have to be honest, I hadn't associated that with it, but it makes me feel good about doing it. And I am someone who definitely stands on principle and likes to do the right thing. And I just feel like, especially in the nonprofit world, they're scraping together those dollars. I'm a donor. I know what it means for those dollars to be used wisely. And I just, in good faith, right? You can't tell people, sure, I'll make you this great thing, and then no, they don't really know how to use it. So sometimes that slowed down some conversations where somebody was ready to pull the trigger as a client, and we've kind of asked them to step back and reevaluate the way something will be used and what their overall campaign is. And it changes the conversation. But I love that when that happens, and then we finally get to the finish line, I feel such an incredible sense of accomplishment and such a part of their team and their vision that we helped with all of those things. So that part gets me really excited. Those are the conversations I hang up and I'm like, this is going to be awesome.
Feels so good. Yeah.
It does.
Oh, I love it. Well, at this stage of your business, what have you found works best for you to reach your ideal customers? I'm wondering if video might be part of your answer.
Video definitely helps. I mean, there's no doubt we are sometimes the shoemaker's child, right? Where we will wake up and go, oh my goodness, we have not made ourselves something new for 18 months. I mean, that has happened. We're trying to get a little bit more purposeful with it. I'm fortunate to say we're pretty consistently busy, so it's hard to make time for that. But yeah, video of course helps. Honestly, it's word of mouth though. First and foremost, word of mouth and people being happy and telling their friend and introducing us, just like I think any business probably would say that. I would say second to that is sort of that SEO and being very purposeful with things like our social media, our reel on our website, our Google ads. We do a little bit, and it's pretty inexpensive just to see what it would hit. And we've picked up some business from that, and then that multiplies. So those things have all been helpful, but there's nothing better than having really good customer service, genuinely having a relationship with your clients. I think it speaks for itself and leads to other people who want to have that kind of relationship as well.
That makes total sense. So you had also sort of touched on my next question, which are, what are a few of the most valuable investments you've made in your marketing? Google Ads is a great investment.
It is. Google Ads are a great investment. And I think, again, creating content for ourselves, being purposeful, something we've done more recently, and I think we're doing it better and more purposefully, is sharing our knowledge. And something that's also been a real shift in the marketing space is actually pulling back the curtain. And, I would say Gen Z has really forced that conversation of saying, we want to know how you do it, right? They go on YouTube, they want to know how to do everything. They watch TikTok, they want to know the behind the scenes. So there's no more in my generation or prior where you hold on to your knowledge and don't share it with people. You want to open it up and tell them. So we've started doing a lot more vlogs and little video pieces and blogs on how do we do something in our business. And we share that openly with our thought process. Sometimes it's editing, skills or information. And so I think all of that has been helpful in positioning us as caring experts while not preaching to people, right? That's kind of that delicate balance in marketing yourself.
Right. And at the same time, you are sharing why those techniques, strategies, efforts are working for you, which is also a great marketing tool because it can help people understand how it would help them in their marketing as well. So that's a really
absolutely
smart strategy.
I will say this, probably the number one thing that we've done is honestly is to give back to the community. I can't underscore enough that by one of the kind of pillars of the business, as I mentioned with the Peak TV, but it's really a tenet and a core of who we are, is this community action, this community involvement concept. So I have always given back, whether it be the Day of Caring with United Way, where we're out actually painting something or, weeding a garden or something like that, reading to kids. We do a lot of reading, Dr. Seuss Day or programs. We're doing one with Project of Easton coming up this summer, but also serving on boards and committees and giving back and planning fundraisers. And we give all nonprofits a discount. We donate to everybody who's our client, as we just do. And so does our whole team. We have 100% participation rate in our United Way campaign. Everybody does some sort of volunteer service on a consistent basis, and everyone participates in team activities throughout the year. And it's important. It's just who we are, and it attracts the right people. When that becomes who you are, people who are attracted to that want to be a part of your team. And I think, honestly, not that it's the reason behind it, but it does help who you are and the way you reach your community. And I think it says a lot about you. And we have a community filled with businesses like this. This is the thing that struck me most when I moved here, is we just have this incredibly caring, giving, philanthropic community here in the Lehigh Valley. And it's just a great way for people to get involved, but also for younger team members to develop their skills, practice skills they may not practice in the workforce, and just give back. So, and meet people. It's fun.
Yeah, right. Oh, I love that so much. And that leads it really well into my next question, which is, let's talk about your team and your culture. And I know that shared value of giving back is a huge part of your culture at ASR, and that mentorship and leadership and team development are also huge values of yours. And your team really reflects that.
Thank you.
They really, you have such a wonderful team.
The only thing that trumps being told my team is amazing and they did a great job, which I have to say I hear pretty regularly, and means so much to me, is hearing it about my kids. So if that tells you at all in my heart, the way that feels, it means everything. But you get back what you put in. I had a friend tell me one time, raising your children is like putting money in a savings account. And it doesn't seem like a lot until one day you wake up and it's added up. And that's what it's like to build a team. You have to invest in them, and you have to weather the storms, and you have to face things head on. I think people are afraid of conflict often because they perceive it as conflict. But I think if you create an open, transparent, communicative environment where it's safe to speak your ideas, to speak your norms, to own your emotions, whether that's in the moment or something else going on in the background. We all have that stuff. you then create a space where you can talk about it, package it, and move it aside to move about the day or the business at hand. And you give people, I think, safety in that. And it elicits compassion and loyalty and friendships, and it makes it more than work. And I don't know how purposeful it was, Emily. I really don't. I'm really purposeful about it now because I've lived it long enough and I understand it. And I've worked with someone like Sean Hayashi as a business coach for years, helping me understand myself and my team, helping them understand each other and themselves. So we work at it. But we have fun working at it. We will tie-dye t-shirts. We will go for a beer. We will throw axes. Pre-COVID, we did an activity just about every month as a team. Wow. And then even during COVID, we were having Zoom happy hours. We did trivia games on Zoom. We did other things. So we try to connect as a team outside of the workplace pretty often. And I'm thrilled that it's apparent that we do that and that it's paying off. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. What's something that you wish you'd learned sooner as an entrepreneur?
Gosh. Well, first of all, I wish I had taken more business classes in college. I wish I had a little more formality around that side. My mother always said, she said about herself, which I think is true. I'm not really good at math unless you put a dollar sign in front of it. And that sort of is true for me as well. Serving on boards is where I really learned about financials and learning to work side by side with financial professionals and accountants, and feel like I could learn from that experience. So that part, I think, on the professional side, and on the personal side that affects business, I wish I had a better understanding earlier on. So I'm 45. I started this company just around 35, 36. I wish I had learned how much my attitude, mood, and emotions affected my team. And so I thank those that have stuck with me, especially Katie and Tina, and I think love me for it. And we've all grown together. But that was something very early on Sean helped me with, and I got control of pretty quickly. It took a little longer for that to apply to my family and my personal life. I think that's always the case, maybe. I don't know. It is for me anyway. But recognizing that just because you're feeling something doesn't mean you have that ripple effect, depending on the way in which you enter a situation, the way in which your body language is, your tone is, your reaction to things. And so that's something in my 40s I've worked pretty hard on. And when I take the extra time to take a few deep breaths, to close my eyes, to make sure I'm rested, that's so important to me, to make sure I'm getting exercise, so important to me, I can enter situations in a way that makes me the right kind of leader. And when you're leading teams, that's really important. And that's a piece I'm so grateful to know at this point. But I guess if you could go back in time, that's a piece I wish I had a better understanding of early on.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
We learn when we get there.
Yeah.
When the student is ready, the teacher appears.
So true. So true.
What are some of your other favorite non-negotiable ingredients for living a good life? You mentioned sleep and exercise.
Yeah, so I would say first and foremost is family. Again, I think I had mentioned I'm the oldest of a large blended family, and family is really critical. I married someone who's the oldest of a large blended family. So we got that. It's a baseline of our marriage is family is really, really important. Although we only have 2 kids, I speak like I'd be someone who had 8 children. Sort of knew we wanted to because we have this big family, but they're paramount. We make an effort to, send birthday cards to, I probably genuinely send 60 plus birthday cards and maybe 40 gifts a year just to family. And I don't say that as any pat on the back. It's just I've made a conscious decision for that to be important, as have my husband, as have my kids. So I think family is really, really important. We've modeled that behavior for our children. Then I think you have to be really good to yourself. I think if you know sleep is important, get enough sleep. Everybody should exercise. You should move your body, help yourself out, get the natural serotonin and natural endorphins going, and you'll feel better. So that has always been a piece of my life. I'm not really obsessive about it. I work out I try to work out 3 days a week. Some days I'll get a fourth in, and sometimes it's only once or twice. And I'm pretty kind to myself about it as long as there's consistency. So I think those are important. And then I would say building in fun and travel. My husband and I really love to travel. We've been fortunate enough to be able to do a lot of that and take our kids with us, and sometimes not with us, to go with friends. So people will say, oh, how do you do it all? You work a lot. People see what you put out there. At the end of the day, I also do a lot of fun things. So I recharge in different ways. And it's another key ingredient that Sean, our business coach, has helped with, is this concept of having 168 hours in a week and prioritizing your time. And lastly, 2 years ago, it's over 2 years now, when I started in the family business and I knew that the growth was coming. I actually didn't even quite know how much growth was coming. I hired a personal assistant. And so I hired a full-time. I had always dabbled with part-time assistants, part-time production assistants, part-time, all different part-time stuff. And I finally said, there was some pride in that for me. There was pride associated with the idea that I could do it all. And so I caution people, you have to know when to delegate. Good leadership is covering your blind spots. Good leadership is asking for help and not feeling like you have to own everything. And then what's really awesome is you're watching someone else blossom and grow because they've gained a skill and they've gained confidence, is really the reward for that. So Krista Gunderman is my personal assistant, and she's the glue of my life. My family would probably say the same thing at this point. So I was kind of proud of myself for that move and knowing that was important to giving me some time back in my life. And it really has, really has. So yeah.
It sounds like you have a wonderfully full life of all of your favorite ingredients. So tell me what's next for you. What are you excited about that's coming up?
Well, I have to say, I have been excited about virtual events, which were really non-existent pre-COVID. We all know we had to jump into this Zoom world, but beyond that, for us, we started getting calls from clients within about, I was going to say early April, so maybe 2 weeks of the shutdown, the original shutdown in 2020, saying, we've got this thing planned, we don't know how to do it. And all of a sudden, it was very clear that if you knew how to create a television show, which is a whole different skill set of things like timing and rundowns and the flow and how things go in and out and all of that, and you know how to create the content within that show, which is the video production, both of which are the two sides of my company. If those two things marry and have a baby, it's a virtual event. So we were given the opportunity with some small things locally to sort of figure it out in April and May, to varying degrees of success. But I was so fortunate to have this trusted client base who said, help us figure it out. I love being an early adopter. I love solving problems. Love, love, love those two things. The idea of being able to solve a problem and be an early adopter, it's like the greatest for me. This was perfect. And then I had the opportunity after that to work with a very large client of ours, the American Institute for Stuttering in New York City. It is a star-studded, celebrity-filled gala that we had created content for in the past and been live in person. And they asked us to partner with them to take this event virtual. And the host is Emily Blunt, and our now president, Joe Biden, was a guest, and all kinds of Wayne Brady. And that was the month of June for an event in early July. But that kind of cracked open the possibilities. And we have since done over 65 virtual events from across the country, really, but clients from Philly to New York to DC to the Lehigh Valley. So that's been exciting. And I think there are things all of us have learned that I think might change the way we discuss content creation, and some things where the virtual format will make sense. So for example, we work with several universities. They do alumni awards, and it was always frustrating that they couldn't get that many people to physically get back to the area they went to college in. Well, all of a sudden they were having 4 or 5 times the amount of people show up virtually. I don't know if they'll go back, because if they can engage their alumni base across the globe, why wouldn't they? So those are the kinds of things now. So now we're on that cusp of some in-person coming back, which is awesome because we love that too, but seeing what remains. And so I think business development right now is what I'm most excited about. We're making a really concerted effort, which we've never done before, to contact current clients and potential clients over this summer to talk about what their goals are, what their content creation they think will look like, what they might need to help have that conversation and just guide it. We've sort of always had the reaction of we need this project, or we're thinking about this, and this time we're going to reach out first. And I'm excited about doing that because I think people are really ready to have that conversation in a creative and inventive way.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense. And it's such an opportunity that we have had this year of virtual events to use them in a way that works wonderfully for everybody going forward. It's not like we have to just go back to what was done, because we've in some ways discovered doing something even better.
Exactly.
So we'll
Exactly.
have so much fun.
Thank you.
And finally, tell us where people can find you and follow ASR. Where do you hang out online?
I mean, we're kind of everywhere. I always say when people say, how can I get in touch? I'm like, I'm really hard to avoid. So if you find me, you might need an internet search, tutorial, but we're everywhere. LinkedIn is always a great spot to start with me personally, and Ashley S. Russo. And of course, the Peak TV or ASR Media Productions. We are on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We are on Instagram. So you can find us any of those places. Our websites as well. We have info pages, so you can reach out. Those actually come directly to me still. That's something I like to see what's coming through, and then get the right people connected. And we're always happy to hear from people. We really are. And we have a heart for our community and a desire to further good news, good missions, good vision. And we wake up loving what we do every day. So it's a good thing. We love to hear from you. So.
Oh, well, that's so evident. And Ashley, thank you so much for sharing your experience and your insight today. You're so inspiring, and this has truly been really illuminating. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Emily. It's been great talking to you.
Oh, thank you. Well, to stay in touch with Ashley and ASR Media Productions and be the first to see future visionary spotlights, click the links below to follow us. And thank you so much for joining us today. Until next time.